Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices and each elementary, middle, and secondary school website in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Kennedy.
Here.
Mr. Donlin.
Here.
Mr. Jarmo.
Here.
Mr. Heffernan.
Here.
Mr. Little. Mrs. Tobacco.
Here.
Mrs. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Capone.
Here.
Mrs. Vanes.
Here. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters of contracts, personnel, negotiations. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of each notice at the Augustine Minor Administrative Offices and each elementary, middle, and secondary school on the website. Roll call.
Here.
Mr. Donnelly.
Here.
Mr. Zion.
Here.
Mr. Heffernan.
Here.
Mr. Little. Mrs. Tobacco.
Here.
Mrs. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Capone.
Here.
Mrs. Binions.
Here. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, Mr. Kirkpatrick is going to do a presentation on HIV. Board members, they're asking us if we could go sit in the front row so that we would be able to see the screen behind us.
In the front row, right?
Yes. Thank you.
We just turn around?
Well, we could, but you're not going to be able to see it. No.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Matt Kirkpatrick. I'm the District Director of Student Support Services. I also serve as the District Coordinator.
This is what our children hear every day at school. They are not learning with the public. Take a
Bear with me, I'll get through this presentation. I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much. So every year, the student assistance coordinators and the SPSSs in the district work with the district administrators to assess their buildings' HIB procedures during the course of the year. Tonight, we're going to talk about the HIB grades from the 2019-2020 school year. So this is not last year's grades. We're always a year back. These are the, again, this is a self-assessment that's done by the administrators and staff members. And these are the criteria and the indicators that are scored. The HIB programs and initiatives that occur in the building, trainings that occur, staff instruction, curriculum that is related to HIB that's presented to our children, the personnel in the building that address HIB-related issues, the building's HIB-related procedures, the reporting, the investigation process. These are some of the indicators that are used to come up with self-assessment score. Now, this is very, very important information. When we're scoring our building and we're answering the questions for these indicators, there's either a 3, a 2, a 1, or a 0. If you score yourself with a 3, you've exceeded the indicator. If you score a 2, you've met all the requirements. If you score yourself with a 1, you partially meet. And if you get a 0, you're not meeting the requirement at all. Please pay attention to the bolded information. If a school were to meet all requirements and give themselves a 2 for every indicator, they would receive a score of a 52. The maximum grade would be a 78. Therefore, each indicator would be scored as a 3. If you take a look at these scores right here, these are going to be the scores for each one of our buildings in the district. I just want to highlight again, this is based on a self-assessment done by school personnel. These are all the scores, and the district score is on the bottom. Please note that these scores are listed at the bottom of every school website, and they're on a district.
Stop wearing your mask. I can't hear a freaking word you're saying. I will be here September 8th with no mask.
There's a couple sheets open in the front. So the final thing I'll go over is the number of allegations and investigations that occurred not only in the year 2018-19, but 2019-20 as well. So in 2018-19, there were 217 investigations compared to 2019-20, where there were 133 investigations. HIBs that were confirmed in 2018-19 were 58, and 2019-20 were 60. So again, this is a process that occurs every year. We're still waiting for the state to give us our assessment for last year. And when we do that, we're going to be reporting out at a board meeting as well. Are there any questions that are related to this presentation? I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll happen, just so you know.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay. That's an effective one. You already are.
Looks nice.
Good evening, everyone. I would just really like to ask everyone to respect everybody's opinions. Mr. Kirkpatrick was just doing his job. We're going to have discussions on our policies, so, just give us a chance to get through it. But please be respectful to our administrators. Okay, under the president's report, the first thing I want to discuss with the board is Mr. Capone and I were discussing sending a letter to the governor. And tonight's the night for us as a board to discuss it. Do you have copies, Mr. Capone?
Yes, you can pass it out. to the
Could you
rest of the
pass
board.
them out to the board? We would like to write a letter to the governor asking him to reconsider about it. It's a resolution.
Mike's off.
Hey, Joan, try it again.
Try
Press
it
the button. Yep. There you go.
Okay, is this
Wait,
better?
It goes right away.
No.
Press it now.
Mike is off.
There you go.
I know the button's saying it's on, but now it's not. Sorry.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Capone and I put together a letter that we would like to send to the governor. Mr. Capone, would you like to read it?
Yes.
Not a letter.
It's a resolution.
The resolution to the
Resolution.
governor, that is correct. The Middletown Township Board of Education, County of Monmouth, resolution demanding Governor Murphy to rescind Executive Order 125. Whereas by the
Want this?
Whereas by the way of executive order, Governor Murphy continues to mandate mass school children in Middletown. And whereas by letter dated May 27, 2021, members of the Middletown Board of Education request an elimination of mask mandate in favor of allowing masks to be optional. And whereas Middletown Township Public Schools have been open safely with in-person instruction since September 2020 for full-time in-person instruction since May 10th, 2021. And whereas Middletown Township Public Schools have been whereas over 90% of the teachers and staff in school have been vaccinated according to whitehouse.gov. Whereas the district undertook extraordinary measures to secure access to vaccines for all staff as soon as vaccines were available, resulting in over 80% of Middletown Township school staff being vaccinated. And whereas as recently as June 7, 2021, Governor Murphy stated, The school officials should be empowered to make decisions based on their community and their facilities. And whereas August 2nd, 2021, Governor Murphy stated, "One size doesn't fit all for opening up school districts." And whereas on August 2nd, 2021, Commissioner Judith Persicelli stated, "It's up to the individual if they shall want to wear a mask indoors." And whereas the Middletown Board of Education believes there is no factual basis or change in the circumstances presented in the Middletown from August 2nd, 2021 to issuance of Executive Order 251 to justify the imposition of mask mandate. Now therefore it be resolved, the Middletown Township Board of Education, that the board called upon Governor Murphy to rescind Executive Order 251 and allow school districts to make individual decisions. And be it further resolved, a copy of this resolution be sent to Governor's office, to Senators Declan O'Scanlan's office, Assemblyperson Schaffenberger and Damaso, Senate President Steve Sweeney, and Assembly Speaker Coughlin, and Dr. Alan McMillan, Acting Commissioner of the Department of Education.
Thank you.
So we put this together because we both felt that we needed to send a letter, but this is the time that the board has input to either agree with us, disagree with us, recommend changes. If you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. If you do, well, we need to get a consensus so we can send this letter. Yeah, we have to adopt the resolution.
Not having some time to review.
So if
Okay.
you would like to add comments?
Yeah.
For or against?
We get a consensus, Sean?
Well, I think some of us are still trying to review it, since you actually just.
So we'll
us
give a
now.
chance.
What do you have?
Stop.
I think we should do tonight, to give everybody a chance to read it.
This seems to be similar to the letter we signed. No.
On the meeting next week for-
Make a motion that we table consideration of this resolution in order to allow all members of the board who have not seen this until 5 minutes ago to review it and comment on it intelligently.
Okay, Tom, what we're going to do is we want you guys to read this and we will take a consensus to put it on the board meeting next week to vote. So please send. Tonight is not an action meeting. Tonight is a workshop where we would be discussing this for the first time. So we can't, I know, but it's not a voting meeting. There's no action taken tonight. This is for us to gather information from our board on their opinion, if they're for it, against it, any changes they would like to make. It's just a draft.
Sorry, my mic, can you get my mic on?
Turn the button in the back.
Do the button in the back.
Sorry, so what am I?
I'd say we take consensus, put it on there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out, so I see a one pager here.
It's only one page, John, yes.
I see, like, we didn't, this wasn't in the back on our.
No.
No.
There's something else in here too?
Like there's
There's-
another document in the other package.
That could be a resolution policy, which is different than what you're reading right now.
It says attachment President 1. I'm not sure what that is. It reads similar type stuff, information, but it talks about the resolution, so what is that exactly?
I don't
I think
think,
it's-
you're on a different document.
Can I show you?
Why does the other?
Yeah.
Mr. Little.
Right there.
That'll be discussed under policy committee.
Yeah, that's coming next under the president's report.
That's
the policy.
Well, the
Policy.
There's two different,
Adopt the policy.
Yes, this is the next one, right?
Yes.
This is different than what
that's
he's
not
got.
what's being discussed right now.
So that's a different resolution.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is the one that Frank just handed out, the one we're talking about now.
Joan,
Now, this one wasn't in our pack either.
he's talking about a policy.
That was.
This is a resolution.
That was
It's a policy.
today via board email.
Today, okay.
Yeah. Everybody needs to remember this is a workshop, so everything's open for discussion tonight. This is the way we should be from the board. This is where we should be discussing it.
Well, you could go to the resolution table. Is there a second?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be voted down.
There was a motion to table this, even though it's not a voting meeting. Does somebody want to second it?
You guys gotta fix your bike.
Don't push that down.
I do. We had a motion, not working.
It's not working, but it works.
Mr. Dimo made a motion to table this. Does anybody want to second it?
You want to second my motion?
I'll second it.
He has a second. Roll call
Down our way.
to table the resolution.
The table for when?
He just wants to table it.
Oh, it's so, who knows? Why would we table?
Excuse us, please. We need to do business, please.
This is minuous. I'm asking.
Like to hear Thomas speak.
No, I mean,
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
This is video, as past, all members of the board.
I want to hear what he has.
Which we and
I can't hear it.
Can we please ask everyone in the crowd to just keep it down? I know everyone wants to speak. There is a time to speak, everyone in the public, but we're not going to be able to get through the agenda if there's a lot of shouting out. I understand there's technical problems with the table mics, but we're trying to get through it. Right now, the status is there's a motion that was brought forward by the vice president to demand Governor Murphy rescind Executive Order 251. That was given to the board members. Mr. Jaimo made a motion to table it, which was seconded. So the motion to table under Robert's rules is not debatable. So right now before, I think it was either Mr. Little or Mr. Donlin. Everyone, please stop yelling out. Please, we're not going to get through the meeting if everyone's yelling.
Are we voting on putting this on the voting agenda for next week?
Right now, you're voting to table it.
No, what I'm saying is, what's the other proposal? Put this on-
A consensus, John. I wanted a consensus of the board. If we could send this letter out is what I wanted to do.
Okay, like right now, like.
Yes.
No,
like a
wait.
Workshop.
Hmm?
I didn't know this, did we do this in this voting meeting? I apologize. I didn't tell.
This is a workshop meeting.
Well, I understand that, but we're voting.
Right. Well, right now, it's just being discussed. So what you're voting on is Mr. Jaimo's motion to table this.
No, but I'm saying, the proposal here is to put this on the voting agenda.
It was to discuss what the board thinks of it, not to put words in Mr. Capone's mouth, but that's my understanding of why he brought it
It's
forward.
discussed right now. Okay, I
Yes.
just want to make sure I understand. what
We want to
we're
discuss it and if possible, get a consensus if we should go forward with it.
Vote on the resolution.
Now,
Why was it tabled? The resolution with the.
It hasn't been tabled. Everyone, please, everyone, can everyone not yell out from the crowd? Please, we can't conduct the meeting if that keeps occurring, okay? Mr. Jaimo made a motion to table, it's seconded. Under Robert's rules, now there's a vote on that. And the board, if they vote yes, it gets tabled till indefinitely because that was the substance of the motion from the language used. If the board votes no, then the discussion on the resolution will continue.
Should Amy take the vote then?
Yes.
Sorry.
roll call.
Can I just ask a second?
Mike Donlin.
But I'm still not clear though. Like, we can't vote on this resolution until next week, right?
We can't discuss it until we take the motion off the table so that we can discuss it.
Because I'm just asking, because you can't, the resolution is saying, send a letter. Now we have to vote on a resolution.
John, right now we're voting on, should we table it? If the motion passes that we're not tabling it, then we will have a discussion,
Okay, I got you.
okay?
I just want to make sure I know.
Yeah, no, nothing's going forward on that unless
At
there's
this
a
point.
possible, at this point, unless we fail the motion.
So if I vote no to that, that means I want to discuss
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
it. Okay. So
Okay.
This is nominating.
No, it still doesn't.
Mr. Donlin.
Yes.
Mr. Zima,
Please.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Heffernan,
Absolutely not.
Mr. Rivera,
No.
Mrs. Wright,
Is that me? I couldn't hear.
Yes.
No.
No.
Mrs. Neely,
No. So now that motion failed.
Okay.
So let's have it. I know everybody just got it, and we're not looking to push anything through. We want to look this over, hopefully get a consensus that we could go through with this. If you have changes, we want to hear what your recommendations are. It's a draft that we want to send something to the governor to get on our side.
No? I'm
Yes,
sorry, Mrs. Minuis, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Mike?
No, I think I'm okay. So again, in just discussing this, I'm not stating what my final decision is going to be. I do have some issues with what's here. I'll take the mic.
He's on.
I know.
One down
Your
there.
mic is.
Okay, thank you. So in looking at the 1, 2, 4th, whereas, I don't think it's entirely accurate.
Keep it down.
In my opinion, I don't think this is entirely accurate without acknowledging the fact that our schools were open safely with in-person instruction since September 2020 and for full-time in-person instruction since May 10, 2021, without noting that we had mitigation procedures in place, such as masking, such as the shields, such as social distancing. For a good period of that time, we were not open for full-time days because everyone was still trying to figure out how to safely serve lunch. So without adding that in there, I don't think that that is accurate. The other things that I would just point out, again, just noting, in the second group where you note quotes from Governor Murphy and also the commissioner, I don't think that's really necessary, quite honestly, to actually just put that in there, these quotes. It really doesn't add anything else to the sort of impetus of what we are basing this resolution on, which is to have choice in the district. So I don't think it's necessary. I would take that out. And then also looking at the following one where it says, whereas the Middletown Board of Education believes there's no factual basis or change in circumstances present in Middletown from August 2nd to the issuance of EO 251 to justify imposition of the mask mandate, I don't actually believe is true. And again, I would say that that should be taken out if that, it doesn't really, again, add much to the letter, which is to say basically you want school districts to have choice.
Want to comment?
So Deb, to that state August 2nd, with the governor and Judy President, both of their words that they said you want to take out.
Yes.
I absolutely disagree. The governor's words on August 2nd were clearly spelled out there, along with Judy Persicelli's. Those words should be sent right back to them with 2 days later than they required masking. So what changed in those 2 days?
Accountability.
Please. I mean, that was their actual words.
Yeah, it's quoted exactly the way it says.
all right, Mrs. Minuez, I have a few comments if I may.
Sure.
Second paragraph, second whereas paragraph. Where it indicates whereas by the letter dated May 27, 2021, Middletown Board of Education requested an elimination of the mask mandate in favor of allowing masks to be optional. I would ask that the word certain be put in before the word members, because it was not unanimous on the board to send that letter dated.
Well, aren't we had 7 quorum.
It wasn't a resolution.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's hard to hear what's being said, so.
Tom, do you wanted to say certain members?
That's it. Yes, that would be more accurate.
I thought when we take
Section
a
is
vote,
everyone
we'll do it.
with the exception of Mr. Donlin and myself, signed that letter.
I have no problem with that.
You could put the majority of the Middletown Board of Education.
No. And by the way, that letter which was sent out was never formally approved by the Board of Education. And how dare you send that letter out on Board of Education letterhead? I had asked Mr. Capone, in fact, if he was going to send that letter in his individual capacity, he said he would.
Yeah.
As it turns out, that letter by him and others in their Board of Education capacity.
Tom, was that illegal what I did?
I'm sorry, Frank?
Was that illegal for me sending out a letter?
Oh, you represented to the public, you were going to send the letter in your individual capacity. I asked you that question, that was your response. And that apparently was not the case.
Every board member up here -2 signed that letter. Every board member up here -2, yourself and Mike Donlin signed that letter. So what is your point?
My point, it was never formally approved by the board. Follow protocol, that's follow protocol.
We had 7
We
signatures.
had-
See, that's an approval.
We-
You know, we respected,
We never discussed with the board issuing that letter.
Yes, that was discussed at a board meeting, and I followed up with every board member to ask who would like to sign. Every person here wanted to see it in person, and you never even replied.
We're supposed to send that letter in the individual capacity.
Never replied.
and I believe that that's the biggest. Tom, I believe that's the biggest problem with us having board members on Zoom, because a lot of information is not getting through. We did discuss it at a board meeting. Frank wrote it. He offered to go to everyone's house to get them to sign it or meet them somewhere else. 7 of us did that. If you didn't reply, I can't control that.
I don't have any issues with the legality of sending that letter.
Okay, let's move on. Any other comments?
Third paragraph, whereas I endorse that paragraph because it certainly underscores the fact that it has caused a separation and a divide between the Board of Trustees and the district administration. So perhaps we should put that in bold language. I would suggest that you take out the whereas clause, which indicates that over 90% of the teachers and staff in schools have been vaccinated, according to whitehouse.gov. I don't think that has any relevance to this particular resolution. I would also agree with Mrs. Wright that the paragraph which co-starts working should be removed. And that the paragraph where it indicates that there is no factual change in circumstances present in Middletown from August 2nd, 2021 to this June, February 251 to justify imposition of mask mandate. That, in my estimation, my opinion, is not true. Also, the opening paragraph of this resolution indicates that the mask mandate was only to school children when in fact it was not.
Could you repeat that? I can't hear what you're saying. No, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I really can't hear what you're saying.
Nice enough to look at the guy right next to him, but he can't do it for us. I mean, it's science. He just sat there.
Okay, guys, we need to get through this, please. Respect us, give us the opportunity. We got another whole resolution to go through.
Tom, are you still going or? Does anybody else have any other comments? At this point, I'd like to take consensus to put this on the agenda for next week's voting session.
I'll second it.
You can do a roll call. Roll call is not necessary, but you know, you need at least 5 people to put it on the agenda for.
Heffernan, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Tobacco?
Absolutely.
Mrs. Caminiti?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Wright?
I'm abstaining.
I'm sorry?
I'm abstaining.
Mr. Donlin?
Sure.
Ms. Jaimo?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Joe, and I'm going to say yes, and yourself?
Yes.
Okay, so it moves, and we can put this on for next week's voting session.
So that it can go on the agenda.
Or you know what?
We need to make sure Amy has a copy. So
Yes.
she can put it on the agenda. Okay, the next thing under the president's report is a resolution demanding, no, that's a different one, sorry. That's the right one. That's it?
That's it.
No. Before I even read this, I want to explain how this went down. We were advised that we need to have a policy/resolution on mask wearing. I asked it to be sent to our policy chair so it can be put in a policy committee, Mrs. Tobacco. With that being done, Mrs. Tobacco reached out to me and asked for permission to meet with Mr. Padula, our board attorney, because there's a lot of legalities to this. I granted her the permission to do so with Mr. Capone filling in for me because I was out of town at a funeral. So they got together with our lawyer and they put this together. It was discussed last night at policy for over 3.5 hours, back and forth. So we are presenting this tonight, but what we need the public to know is that we are not defying Governor Murphy's mandate. We can't do that, but we are trying to help people, students, move forward with this until something changes. So, Mr. Capone, who's going to read this? Mr.
I
Padula?
think we,
I don't know.
We don't have to?
No.
Did every board member get a chance to read this? It was sent to you on your portal?
this is on the portal for the public as well, so you
Yes.
can read it and look into it.
What it is a resolution implementing a policy pursuant to Executive Order 251. So at this time, we're looking for board comments.
I'd like to also add, Ms. Minuis, that this was structured yesterday in a board committee meeting on policy, and it took about 3.5 hours to finalize it. There was approximately 10 people in the room, administration and board members.
And finally, this is the second version of the resolution, the policy resolution.
That is a policy resolution. What I read earlier was just a resolution.
I could.
Second version, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Jaimo, you're correct. This is a revision as a result of the policy meeting.
This is version number 2, correct?
Right.
Correct. This was not the one that was originally presented to policy. This was a revision based on the discussions at the policy meeting.
Good. May I request that we copy of version 1 compare to version 2?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
And I be provided with a copy of version 1 so I can compare it to version 2, which we just received at 2:00 this afternoon.
Right, and that's because it was discussed at policy until almost 11 last night. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'd be happy to provide you the original version.
This is the version that came out of policy last night.
I only sent it. to
So
people that were in the
this
room.
is the version that's going to be on the agenda next week.
Maybe I'm not familiar. Why?
I can't hear you.
Johnny, can you?
Sorry, why are we mentioning vaccines here?
Can we just reread this?
The policy.
I mean, It's kind of long.
mentions educators not talking about vaccines.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so why, if we're talking about mass required for vaccine, why are vaccines being discussed? All right.
Want me to answer?
Yeah.
So I'll answer that. I'm sorry because not all of you might have looked at this resolution yet or policy. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you go.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm sorry, all of you would have gotten a chance to look at this yet. It is on the website portal. Again, it was discussed after hours, and this is what we came up with between the board and the administration. And Mr. Little's question is why is there a mention of any vaccine in here? And what he's referring to is part of the policy. It's a little bit reactionary in response to what has happened this past week where the NJEA had teacher trainings, training teachers on how to influence your students on vaccination. Sorry, so I was the recipient of multiple texts from teachers in our district who disclosed some of the teacher training, some of the I have screenshots from what was going on, and so as a board, we decided that we would prefer that there be no discussion of vaccination, whether pro or against.
Committee.
How many members of the committee are on the board?
Board members of the committee on the board. Like every other committee, they're a relevant point.
What's your point?
It was not considered.
We just got this.
We just received this very important policy resolution.
At 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Guys, please, let us continue on. Tom, like all committees, we had the committee meeting last night. You got it today. This is not being voted on until next week.
I understand.
So we can't get it to you any sooner because it was directed to policy to try to form this resolution policy. And that's exactly what happened last night. It took 3.5 hours to get through it.
And I'd like to say, and again, as policy chair, I'd like to say that just for everyone's education, we are following the letter of the law exactly as Governor Murphy's Executive Order 251 has laid out, which also includes we are following all of his exemptions.
Well, let's take a look.
Is this up for discussion right now?
Yes, right now.
So
That's why we're here.
Paragraph 1A.
small letter I. Indicates the following.
District shall accept an individual or parental testimonial letter, evidence. Paragraph 1.
Paragraph 1A1. It indicates that the district shall accept an individual or parental testimonial letter as evidence that wearing a mask inhibits an individual's health. Does the district not reserve to itself the right to
Reject the letter?
Continue on.
Is there an ability for the district to reject the letter?
Why would we reject a letter from a parent or a doctor?
Yes, small letter I and small letter II are in the disjunctive, correct, Bruce? It's not conjunctive,
No,
Correct. There are each 3 separate exemptions.
so in respect to paragraph 1, small letter I, all the district would require is a letter from the parent,
Correct.
and
not
not
a letter from the doctor. Right.
does the district have the ability to screen
Will reject a parent's letter. And if so, what is the criteria?
The district can look at the letters. If you read the entire section, it says any such letter must describe how wearing a mask specifically affects that individual or student. General statistics or assertions about mask wearing are not acceptable. So that's the standard that you were just asking.
Okay, so does the district have the right to reject the letter?
No.
That may be possible.
How?
How?
Yes.
It depends on the letter. I'm not going to comment on hypothetical letters or what the letter might be. But for
I
example,
think we should be forward thinking.
I'm sorry, I can't hear
We
you.
should be forward thinking.
Well, you know, as a lawyer, we don't like to address hypothetical questions. We address the facts as they're presented to us. So I don't want to put anything out there and have somebody say at some point, if I can jump in here first, I don't want to have somebody say at some point, the board attorney or somebody said something at a meeting that this is what the letter should or shouldn't say. But there is a standard built in, and that was specifically built in to avoid situations where it would just be a parental opt-out, which is not permitted under Executive Order 250.
To read that with, and by the way, lawyers get hypotheticals all of the time from our clients.
Attorneys and judges.
I mean, judges during oral argument, but I know I've been trained for 23 years to never answer a hypothetical question, especially sitting on a dais in a public meeting.
As a lawyer, you probably have a lot of opinions, but as a lawyer, you can't have all your facts. Some of that.
So, I'm sorry.
I said, as a lawyer, you're entitled to your opinion. But as a lawyer, you're not entitled to your own facts. Let's go.
Okay, what's the next?
Please stop yelling out.
So just to get on that, so.
Yeah, let's get on.
Sorry. When they say
submit to the district, who is that?
principal, are they gonna say-
That's correct. Nurse and principal.
Who?
The nurse and the principal.
Not the superintendent?
Nope, it's going to the nurse or the principal.
And I want to get back to
Where is
the
that?
vaccinations. In the whereas part, it talks about the executive order. I don't know if the executive order discusses vaccinations. In other words,
We're addressing the executive order in this resolution, but now we're talking about vaccinations, discussing vaccinations. I'm just saying, I don't think that's in the whereas section where
I don't know when NJ.
JEA ever dictated.
But excuse me,
Please.
we don't have time to speak. John, I think that is really put in there to protect us and protect our kids. We did say at the last board meeting that we were not going to allow staff to encourage or discuss vaccines with our students, that we would put on the front webpage where vaccines are available if people want them, but we do not want to discuss with our students.
I mean, I'm saying. Mr. Tobacco.
Can't hear you, John.
Mr. Tobacco gave us a background of why that's in there, but the whereas is supposed to do that for us, right? It's supposed to say whereas the district did this or whatever. That's what we resolved to do, right? Like.
So
Well,
John,
here, the whereas clauses set the premise for why you're adopting the policy. But if you look at the whereas clauses in EO 251, they do speak a lot about the vaccination status of the student population.
Order addresses vaccination.
The executive order, the whereas clauses, and the entire factual premise of the EO is that there's low vaccination rates of students or their ineligibility for vaccination.
Should we add that to our,
Should we add that to our section here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a need. It doesn't lend to this. I mean, if
Just said it did though.
the fact that it's in the whereas clauses of the executive order opened the door to you including part of that in this policy here. But we could add the whereas clauses to this, but it's not legally necessary.
I'm just saying, it starts with masks and then later on you have to read it. It talks about vaccines. Talk about that in the beginning.
so does the EO.
So it is,
I'm just saying, like, just reading our resolution.
yeah. And I believe it's in there because
Play the basics.
Executive Order 251 does talk about that.
Then we should put that, sorry, we should put that in there then. And we also should talk about, it says, talking about it in general. It doesn't say to whom, I don't think. It just says, you cannot discuss it all. So I don't know if that means you can't talk to teachers about it. I think we should be very, very specific of who we're talking about.
Need to add
Sorry,
staff. Did not.
Another thing that I would piggyback on there, and this came out actually last night at the policy committee meeting, Mrs. Pickus did raise the concern that it is possible in one of the learning standards for health classes that they may talk about vaccines in general, how they came about, how they were developed, what they are supposed to do. So is that going to prohibit us from now meeting a learning standard?
No.
I would like the board attorney to answer the question. Thank you.
No, that's right. It would not, because that would be legally required and that would supersede this in the policy.
The policy, sorry, this policy. This policy also does carve out COVID-19 vaccinations, not vaccination in general as a health topic.
Bruce, can you tell me what the purpose is of the language which says general statistics or assertions about mask wearing are not acceptable? That appears in more than one paragraph throughout the proposal.
The intent of the exemptions is that there has to be some individualized indication of the impact on an individual's health, that comes right from the language of the executive order that says one of the exemptions is when doing so would inhibit the individual's health. So the purpose of that language is to have a specific causal connection between the adverse impact on the health and the mask rather than just a general statistic of how masks affect children generally. Because I know there's been a lot of studies about that. I think JAMA even came out with one this week.
Yeah, but a parent's testimonial letter seeking an exemption from the mask mandate. We should mention general statistics, correct?
Sorry, what was the question?
I cannot foresee a parent asking for an exemption to the mask mandate, incorporating general statistics or assertions about mask.
Did you say you could not see that occurring? No. Well, I mean, through the course of my representation of several school districts, I've seen hundreds of mask exemption letters and a vast majority of them cite general statistics.
But why include the language?
Because that provides a standard that you were looking for before.
So I think, I don't know who said this before.
Can't hear you.
I don't know who said this before, but you said that the letter would be submitted to either the principal or the nurse. Where is that stated?
That is not specifically in here, but that would be a protocol on how administration implements the policy.
That was brought up last night.
Yeah, I believe that was brought up last night.
You could also put the HIPAA. It's in there too. Also, it would be that way also because of HIPAA. You don't want the letter would only be going to the school nurse or the head administrator in the building.
Should be included.
He said that should be included.
Or something that was.
Yeah.
Is everybody agreement we can add that? It's going to go to the nurse and the principal?
Objections to that.
I don't think we're gonna add it, are we? It's gonna be a
Yes.
protocol, right?
That was your protocol unless it's already written.
It's up to the board. I mean, I don't see a need. I don't see a legal need to add it.
Oh, I have another.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not that administration.
And that's going to be administrative.
Okay. The superintendent recommends that we do not put that in the policy.
I have another question.
Sure.
So under 1A3, the current heat exemption shall continue until significant change in weather conditions. Is that to imply that when that decision is then made, everyone's wearing masks?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It would not be that everyone is wearing masks. If you were subject to one of the other exemptions, then you would obviously not be required to. But the blanket heat exemption would not be implicated any further.
Okay.
The whole that we're saying we're keeping the heat exemption on here before we even know that.
Well, we're not predicting what the weather's going to be at that time. We're just saying as of today, the heat exemption was implicated for students that were in the school and visitors that were correct around today. So that status quo is going to be maintained until there's some change that would no longer factually support implicating that exemption.
I believe the resolution as presented tonight with prescription for abuse by students and parents, because all that is required is a simple letter from a parent indicating that their child's health is. It's really mask optional resolution. When you really cut through it, that's what we're talking about. This is a mask optional policy.
How I felt about this, and I said it at the policy meeting last night. I've been involved with the schools for over 20 years. And for me, the best advocate for a student is their parents. And I'm not just saying that, I truly, truly believe that.
And you're right.
You're right.
Now, I guess
Why is it possible?
because I'm not talking about the exact policy in front of us. The policy. I believe there's not specific enough criteria in this policy. We simply recognize that by virtue of the questions which are being asked right now.
Do you think there's specific information in the EO 251?
I think somebody could do a better job with this resolution. That's what
I think the governor could have done a better job at revisiting 251 as well.
Are there any other comments on this resolution?
I would just say that, I guess I didn't, expect a resolution to come tonight. Is this anywhere in our actual agenda, anywhere like a workshop? Just so I know, because I missed it.
No, we were only notified in last week that we had to come up with a policy resolution, and that's why I sent it to the policy committee.
No, understood, but
Yeah.
I mean, if I, as a board member, say, you know, I look at the agenda, right? And I didn't necessarily expect a resolution review tonight. Is there a way we can better communicate so we know it's coming?
It was on the agenda.
Is it on the agenda?
It was on the policy committee agenda that we were discussing it.
Oh, saying it's on the policy committee agenda, you need a workshop?
Yes.
Know what I'm
No,
saying?
it was on the committee, policy committee agenda.
Right, no.
I think I could help. It was on the policy committee agenda. It was sent out in the portal today and available, a copy on the portal. And if you look at the draft agenda for next week, it's under the president's report.
No, I got you. What I'm saying is before today, I didn't know this was, I didn't necessarily know this was coming. 'Cause I'm not on the policy committee. And when we look at our workshop under our committees, we don't put any items on. All I'm saying is I'm fine reviewing at the workshop, but it would have been nice to have just a bit more of a heads up that we were talking about, you know, because we've slimmed down the workshop items here. It just says committee meeting. So it's easy to miss that stuff if you're not on that committee. That's all I'm asking. It's a big deal, right? So it would have been nice to get an email or just a heads up. I mean, I'm fine reviewing it here, but I know people are getting frustrated, but it's not as easy as people think if you don't expect it. Right? You look at the agenda, you say, oh, what's going to go on today? I had no idea.
John,
Yeah, that's understood.
following the procedure, we have. Sorry, John, we just follow the procedures like every other committee. We had our committee meeting last night.
I'm not-
Almost 11:30.
I'm questioning your.
Hang on, but you did get an email saying that it's up to the portal at 2 p.m. today.
Yeah, but that's my point, Jackie. I don't know why you're arguing.
I'm just saying, it's just like every other committee. I have no idea what went on last night in finance facilities either.
Last week you found out, so and you had an agenda meeting.
No, we found out Governor Murphy issued an executive order that we needed to come up with.
But my point, all I'm asking, right, is that you had a policy meeting with last night. All I'm saying, we could have given a heads up that we're discussing. I didn't know.
What's time for you? Wanted me to call you.
You're the president? I didn't.
I'm the board chair.
You should have said, then you could have, right? And email, I guess.
Yeah, you could have.
Got it. It's worth it.
No, but why, first of all, I don't understand why you're getting hostile. I asked a question. A president could have sent an email, it's easy.
John, let me explain. I'm not getting hostile.
Oh, but
Mrs. Walker and I and Frank met on Thursday, go over Wednesday, go over the agenda. And that's when we were informed that this policy resolution needed to be formed.
Right.
So right away, I did what I was supposed to do and sent it to the policy chair. And that's how it started to
I'm
work.
not questioning the speaker, I'm just saying.
Heads up goes out. Meeting on the way. FYI.
The policy committee agenda also was posted on the portal.
I got you, but today meeting, like normally you get 48 hours usually to sort of see what we're talking about. That's all I'm saying. I'm asking.
I understand that, but this is what a workshop is for. Our meeting was last night. Tom, please stop shaking your head.
I'm gonna shake my head because I'm so frustrated by the lack of.
Please stop yelling. Please.
Stop.
Please don't. All I'm asking is that it's a big topic, right? So I didn't realize it was going to be an agenda item because, folks are saying when we speak about it, so you speak about it at the end of the meeting, it's not an agenda item. I'm saying, could have been a heads up. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying procedures were violated. I'm saying it's a big deal, right? So I'm just making sure.
I get it.
Not
We noted.
trying to question everybody, but I was asking a question,
We noted, but we did have our meeting last night. That first we got to look at the proposed resolution to working it down to what it is tonight. And then tonight was for us to discuss and next week is for us to vote.
Fair enough.
So I'm sorry if it was.
No, I'm not. I'm
That's-
what I'm asking is that in the future, if it comes up, we could just get like a text or a buzz. Usually we do.
Really quick, we tried putting these meetings together last week. A couple of people had vacations, administration and board members. That's why I myself personally was at 4 board meetings last night, 4 o'clock until 11.
I'm not questioning.
That's the only reason why this is a.
Behind it. All I'm saying is that an email or text or something heads up. That's all I'm
Next
asking.
time, John, we will try to do it further, but this was our workshop. This is where it fell. And this is where it needs to be discussed.
So there'll be
I
no,
appreciate that.
there'll be no first and second reading?
Want to answer that? He wants to know if there's a first and second reading.
No, I'm starting with COVID policies in the spring. I've advised several clients that due to the inherent temporary nature of COVID, that adopting it by simple resolution is easier and legally sufficient rather than adopting a policy, because a resolution is a formal action of the board and it implements your standard operating protocols and procedures and policy as it applies to the mask wearing as required under 251.
Is this a resolution or is this a policy?
This is a resolution establishing your policy as required by 251. And under my legal opinion, due to the temporary nature of COVID-19 and the expeditious nature in which we are required by the executive orders to implement these policies, doing it by a simple resolution with 1 reading rather than 2 readings, how you normally do policies, is legally sufficient.
So there'll be no policy number?
Correct.
I'm sorry, in here, there's a date saying when the executive order over or whatnot, that this resolution is no longer in effect, or tied to the date of the executive order?
It is not, but by its nature that it implements a policy pursuant to the order. If the order is amended or rescinded, then by its nature, this would also sunset.
Any other
Hold on,
comments?
John.
So the one change, we're not making a change, right?
No,
I mean,
Mary Ellen recommended not. Okay,
I could put it. We could talk about it.
okay. All right, so this.
No, I'm sorry. I just have one more question. I'm sorry, as we're sitting here trying to work through this. So clearly, as a board, one of our first and utmost duties is to maintain safety of our students and our staff. That is clear. The other thing is that we owe a fiduciary duty to this town. And one of the things that we have to consider is potential liability. And so I'm not getting into the hypotheticals, but I do want to ask this question. So normally in a work setting, if someone is asking for a reasonable accommodation, they have to provide some documentation to back that up. And one of the strongest things, and honestly, the only thing that I've ever seen in my experience, is a letter from some type of healthcare provider to state why that accommodation is necessary, which would then allow that person to continue working. So now if we start accepting individual letters from parents, and again, it is still loosely defined in here in terms of what it is those letters have to state to say why masks cannot be worn. If we face a potential lawsuit from a parent whose child contracts COVID, right? And you then have to jump through the hoops to figure out whether or not you can actually prove that it's in-school transmission.
Please keep it down. Let her finish her question.
Does that increase our potential liability as a district?
Again, a determination of liability is extremely fact specific. I know we talked about this at some length last night, so I wouldn't want to give an opinion here in a public meeting about a hypothetical liability on some virus that we don't know where it came from or how somebody got it, or the effects of mask wearing, either having one, being required to have one, or not having one. That's kind of difficult, but I'd rather talk about those issues privately because that implicates attorney-client communication and potential litigation.
Bruce, we do need to have that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about
Discussion.
I'm not talking about specifics. Clearly would never be able to do that. But what we're doing here is adopting a resolution that could potentially open us up to liability. I think you can give a general opinion about that.
I would say generally, if there's a lawsuit that, you know, the general rule is that people go for every deep pocket, and that's a possibility here. And that could be a possibility if someone is compelled to wear a mask and the requested accommodation is denied. It could also work that way, or it could work, you know, the other way if someone claims that they contracted COVID as a result of some, I'm assuming that you're saying an allegedly improperly given accommodation.
I'd just like to also add that we also have to remember that, sorry. Okay. I'd just like to say also that in general, whether or not anybody has an exemption during lunch, no one's wearing masks. So our liability doesn't necessarily change. We still have that option of no one wearing masks.
I could disagree. This is not the point to actually belabor that, but thank
I
you.
disagree with that too, Jim.
Okay.
Let's move on now.
Okay, no other comments. We're going to move on. I also have to give a report under the president's report is that Leonora and I and Mrs. Gallagher met with Whitston's Food Service to see how our lunches will be expedited this year. We were guaranteed that we're going back to our normal delis open in the high school, hot food stations. We looked at certain schools, they're going to add more lines to expedite the lunch period. There's a few pieces of equipment that we're purchasing that needed to be replaced. So what I could say now, Whitston's will be coming to do a presentation in September, but we just wanted to update the community that going back to school, that lunches will be as usual. They're opening all lines and serving all food. That's it. Okay, next, we are moving on to committee reports, legislation.
Did not meet this month, Ms. Minuis.
Okay, technology,
Yeah, we are meeting Monday night and we'll report Tuesday.
perfect. Student services, Jeff?
Yes, so we met as a committee on August 12th. One of the things that we were able to talk about was ESY. And ESY had actually ended on August 6th, and it ran from July 6th through August 6th. And it was at Harmony Elementary and then also Thorne. All the student participation, we were told, had 213 students, which was 142 at the preschool and elementary level and 71 at the secondary level. I do believe the total of students was a little bit down from previous years, but we were very happy that we were able to actually have ESY this summer program. And in some ways, it actually was beneficial to the students that did participate, with actual numbers being a little bit lower because the classes were actually smaller. And so the children who participated had a lot more one-on-one time with their teachers. And overall, it actually was very successful. So we were happy to hear that. We talked about the new bill, which was S-3434 for compensatory services, and the aging out returning students, which was signed by Governor Murphy, which allows students who are typically aging out to be considered for an additional year of instruction and services as determined by their IEP teams. So the IEP teams are now starting and continuing to go over to determine those students' particular needs and services of those who are interested. And so they will continue through the rest of the summer here to figure that out. And so we'll have perhaps some more information at a future meeting. We had a very brief update about the inclusion grant, which we have been talking about over the past year. The reason why is that the inclusion grant committee had not yet met over the summer, but the administrators are continuing to plan for those committees' continued work when the new year starts. And one of the things that we had talked about, we had actually talked about this at the last couple of meetings right before the school year ended, was that those committees are now planning to now add parent representation on those committees. So we'll have more to actually talk about that when the school year begins. I do believe that actually last week, there was to be a Wilson training to try and actually train more of our teachers. I think there was a program that was actually supposed to be a combination of in-person and hybrid, but Dr. Tiedemann let us know that literally, I think it was like a day or two before the program started, decision made, not by the district, but there was a decision made that it would be all virtual, but all of our teachers did participate who wanted to take that training. There were 9 staff members who took the training. And so now I believe at some point, and don't quote me on this because I was trying to remember myself the other day what the number was, we were somewhere around 40 teachers in the district who were certified under Wilson. So these will now add another 9, which is really great for our students. And then the last thing that we had talked about, again, was another update on the disproportionality. And so Dr. Meg Young and then also Dr. Fergus, who we have consulted with out of Temple University, are continuing to meet with the committee to talk about and look at the data that we have. And then throughout the summer, they were continuing to talk about target areas identified for the continued disproportionality work, and then how that would be rolled out for meetings that would then happen at different levels with different staff once the school year begins. And so we'll have more update on that once September rolls around.
Thank you, Deb. It was really a great meeting.
Yeah, it was.
Information coming out.
It was a very good meeting.
Okay, let's see. Finance and facilities.
Ms. Doherty had picked this up. It was a very small, short meeting, so I'm gonna let Amy talk about it.
We covered a few topics, mainly in the area of facilities. We talked about the planning for the work on high school bubbles for next summer. We did include in our budget for the current year projects of reskinning the bubbles and also resurfacing the floor. So we're continuing to move along the path of getting specifications for that out. We also talked about we have, as we're required to do by the state, we are required to do lead sampling in all of our water outlets across the district. So we are in the process of the testing has been done. We are reviewing the results for that. We have some preliminary results back that do show some outlets that will need remediation, installation of filters, and so forth. We do have it's primarily sinks. There were a few water fountains in there as well. But we just also discussed the fact that water fountains have been offline over the past year or so with the pandemic. So those have been dormant, and most of our water fountains have been replaced by the bottle fill stations, and those have no issues. So we will be looking to get finalized test results posted on our website in the near future. And also any specific findings for a particular school will be communicated out to those school communities. And we also talked about the Lincroft Library lease agreement, which is on the agenda for next week for the board to approve. The board has been leasing the library facility that is not being used as a library at this point on Newell Springs to the township for the past several years for $1 per year, so that they can use it for the Municipal Alliance program. So that renewal of that lease is on the agenda for next week for the board to approve. The township did already approve it on their behalf last week. That's all we discussed. That was a brief meeting.
Thank you, Amy. Policy, I think we just had a full discussion. Jackie, anything else to add?
No, that's all we have.
All right, curriculum. Don?
Our meeting never transpired, but I know that in a couple of things she wanted to.
So I don't have a microphone, but I have a pretty loud voice, so hopefully you can hear me. We hope to have a meeting soon. As you can imagine, most of the curriculum department has been really busy with staffing. That's been their priority over the last several weeks. However, we did want to let the board know that our summer programs are coming to a conclusion this week. On Friday will be the last day for our students in summer school, middle school and high school credit recovery, as well as our SOAR program. The attendance has been very high this year. We appreciate the parents partnering with us and making sure the students have attended their programs. I have to say, the most successful, most highly rated by the students, I was able to visit with them, program was our esports program. There was a wait list. The students were excellent. When we visited with them with the Executive County Commissioner, Mrs. Walker, myself, and Mrs. Burt, they were very eager to come and tell the board how much they learned and how they hope that the program can be expanded. And I know that that's something that we're talking about later with expanding esports stipends for our advisors. The other thing is Civil Air Patrol, and I think Mrs. Kamenet is going to address that in our student activities report, because we actually discussed that as being an extension of our curriculum through an extracurricular activity and community partnership. And the last thing we just wanted to give the board an update on is through our strategic planning over the last 2 cycles that I've been involved, at least, so over 5 years, there's been a lot of community feedback regarding increasing programs for career and technical education, hands-on programs. I just want to let the board know that Mrs. Burke has come on board, and in her first month, she's already held multiple meetings with district administrators at both the middle school and high school level. She's connected herself with the Department of Education representatives, and we are in the process of pursuing and surveying students once they return in September to apply for CTE certifications, which will allow the district to take advantage of Perkins grant funds to expand programs for students. So be on the lookout. We'll let you know what our survey results show, where the students' interests lie. Right now, we're going to be focusing on our current 8th and 9th graders. Stay tuned for more updates.
Thank you.
I think that's really exciting. Program. Versus for the students. Get that going.
Thank you, John. Shared services, anything?
Sorry again, I think you spoke to the administrator, right? Tony.
Joan, you missed co-curricular?
I'm sorry, Mike.
No respect, no respect. That's it. I said no respect. She missed co-curricular.
Go ahead, we're going back to it. Don't worry.
You want me to say?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we did not meet this month as a committee, but we're continuing to work on putting together the RFP for feasibility study on the property to see if about the feasibility.
It's not working.
Facility on that property. So we are working on getting that out. It should be going out in the next few weeks. Can't hear you.
They couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
All right, Ms. Co-curricular.
Okay, we met last night. Yeah, as Amy was saying earlier about in the finance committee, the bubbles are being reskinned next year. So as far as our weight rooms, they're being maintained, but they're hoping to update things next year for the weight rooms for the high school students. Sports are back. Everything is status quo. We're back to playing sports. Also, we discussed a little bit about pasta parties and different things that are going on in the community. And I believe that the district is doing it in-house so we can see what's happening with our students when they have these parties and gatherings that they normally have. We're trying to get everything back to normal as it can be for our students. We do have, as Kim said about this esports, it is something very new. It's very exciting. It's at the stipend that we're putting in to have a club for the kids. it's a curriculum, but yet it's a club also to expand what these children doing. It's very interesting. It's gaming, but it's a different level. It's at a different level. It's something that's going to become a career for the kids going forward. It's very interesting, I'll tell you. They opened my eyes with it last night. The other thing that I can't really discuss, I'm going to need help from either Mr. Kirkpatrick or Pat.
Civil Air Patrol.
Civil Air Patrol.
Please, I cannot discuss this because I need your help with it. Let's put it that way.
So curriculum goes outside of the classroom, right? So Mrs. Burt and I had an opportunity along with the high school administration at both schools to meet with two gentlemen, one of which is a community member actually, and former teacher here in Middletown, Lieutenant Bob Cartwright. And they presented a program to us, which would be beneficial to students 12 to 18. It is a completely voluntary program, but things that it really emphasizes is character education, physical fitness, areas of core values that they believe in, such as integrity, volunteer experience, being respectful towards others, and a lot of different soft skills that students will need to go into, jobs within the 21st century. Another big piece of it is teaching them how to be aerospace leaders. So they would get to work with, different pilots that are certified to learn about aerospace. It also has a parent component, parents, which could be volunteers or committee members that they can learn more about the Civil Air Patrol program. Another piece that they emphasize is that students wear uniforms because they feel when they are presented and they start to wear their uniforms, they have a sense of teamwork, they have a sense of leadership, and leadership is a very program. And then they have an activities element where they take all of these core values and they go through projects and simulations to emphasize all these areas that they learn in the weeks that they're together in their meetings. The lieutenant did emphasize that all the things that they would need or request is a storage space for all the technology supplies that they have, as well as meeting rooms to meet with the students. So this is the Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary unity faction of the U.S. Air Force. And it is in no way, shape, or form do students have to make any binding commitment by participating in this auxiliary corps to the military. They just ask that we be a community partner with the Bayshore Squadron by offering them, as Mrs. Bird indicated, space to store things like flight simulators, drones, STEM kits, and other materials that they use in training the students on aerospace engineering and design.
And this is just a club.
Just a club. And just the after school club, it's actually open to any 12 to 18-year-old in the area. We actually have students, residents in Middletown who are currently in the squadron, as well as students from other neighboring towns like Freehold and Howell. They were having their meetings many years ago at Modern Day. They lost that space. They most recently have been at CBA, but unfortunately CBA is knocking down the building that they were using. So they keep asking us if we can partner with them.
It's going to be housed at High School North.
That is what we are thinking right now. Yes.
For the club.
Yes.
So the club is going to consist of our students plus the Bayshore area children.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we did personnel in executive session. Does anybody have any questions on the meeting agenda for next week? Okay. Old business.
I have one item for old business. So at the last meeting, we had talked about doing away with Zoom for board members and the public. And I know that I spoke, and I believe that Mike Doddelin also supported this as well, that I thought it was a mistake that we got rid of Zoom for the public to continue to be able to not only view, but also participate and contribute whatever thoughts they had on issues that were coming before us. I do want to say that while we were virtual, although it was difficult at times with technology, it was the most engaged I think we ever saw our school community. I know that when we had our meetings, I would actually be on Zoom, but I would be monitoring the YouTube channel as well, looking at questions that were being asked. And every single meeting that we had upwards of 200 participants on each platform who were watching what we were doing and engaging with us and giving us important feedback, which is extremely valuable for us to be able to make decisions in terms of where this district should go. And I do think it was a mistake when we actually got rid of that. And in fact, actually the township committee at their meeting on Monday night is still operating, not only meeting in person, but having a WebEx platform for the residents of Middletown to be able to view, because there are many reasons why people cannot attend meetings in person. And they also allow the residents of Middletown to have that opportunity to voice their opinion on what their agenda items on through WebEx. So I am making a motion tonight that we should reinstitute the Zoom platform for the public to fully participate.
Second that motion.
That's the microphone.
Can we make a simple request? Can you, if you're going to speak, I'm sorry, can you just pass the mic down the line? It seems like it's not too much to ask. Because no one heard that. I can hear you up front. It's not hard to do. You're asking our children to attend school. Speak up, please. Thank you.
So what I had said, is this even on? So what I had said was that at last month's meeting, there was not an official vote, but we were asked to come to consensus as to whether or not we should get rid of the Zoom platform, not only for board members, but also for the public, to be able to fully engage with us by viewing what we are doing during meetings and also having the opportunity to voice their opinion during public comment via Zoom. I said that I disagreed with actually getting rid of that platform for the public. Mr. Donlin spoke in favor of that as well. And then it was quickly decided that we were going to get rid of it. I do think that was a big mistake because it actually has stopped us from being able to engage with our community. For those who cannot attend meetings in person, there are a lot of reasons why people cannot attend meetings in person. It doesn't mean that they're concerned about what it is we're doing or where the district might be going. And we're losing that valuable input. And I also stated that while we were virtual, though there were times when technology proved to be a little difficult, every single meeting, I was on the Zoom and then also on another device monitoring the YouTube channel. I was curious to see how many participants were actually there. And it was easy to tell who the board members were and then separated by who the participants were. On each platform, we had upwards of over 200 participants each time. Our community members engaged with us. And we have now lost that. The Township Committee at their meeting on Monday night, they are still operating, meeting in person and having a WebEx platform for the residents of Middletown to be able to not only view, but also voice their opinion over WebEx on whatever their agenda items are, because they value the opinion of their community and inclusion of everybody in the committee to have the opportunity to say whatever it is that they want to say. And I do think that that was a mistake for us to get rid of. So I make a motion tonight that we reinstitute the Zoom platform for the public to fully participate.
I second that motion.
This would have to be handled the same way as the resolution for the governor. So if there's consensus to put that on the agenda, that's what the board should discuss at this point.
We're putting it on the.
Actually, I do want to address that comment that I just heard that I want to sit on a Zoom meeting. If you actually paid attention to the way I voted last month, I actually voted saying that I thought board members should appear in person. That is exactly what I said.
Public comment is coming up shortly. Please let us finish.
You know, we had a lot of people calling in from other towns, other states, messing around. It was a little chaotic, you know. If you have a problem with what's going on, you should come down here and say something.
Please, just please keep it down for the audience. You'll have a chance to speak later.
And Harmony, if you come on down to say something, you should wear a mask, because that's the law right now. You know that. Every person in this building should have down.
Please keep down.
We are in the middle of a meeting. Let's finish it. The public will have their opportunity to talk. Tom, if you want to yell at them, you'll have your time later.
It's not a mask, it's like a coffee grinder.
That's a guys, we need to finish our meeting. Please be respectful.
How is that appropriate?
It's not appropriate. None of it is. Deb made a motion.
We can't do motions here.
We can't do motions,
You
but we
speak
can do.
about it.
Similar to the way we did the resolution for the governor to rescind 251, you'd have to do that the same way to see if there's a consensus among members of the board to consider that at your voting meeting.
Not tonight, at the voting meeting? Because we did a consensus before.
You would ask for a consensus now on your voting meeting.
Okay, so you'd have to ask for the consensus to put it back on for the agenda next week.
Okay, that's fine. I asked for the consensus to put it for the agenda next week.
Only for residents?
Please,
Guys,
please,
we're in the
please,
middle.
you can't yell out.
I made it very clear that it was for the public to be able to fully participate.
And I
You guys don't have the option of only joining that way. So you got-
This is.
I don't believe there's a back and forth.
Can I ask a question of you, Deb? Deb,
Please.
you consider, instead of having it, I'm not there with the public calling in. I understand people watching it and seeing it. I agree with that. But the calling in part, if you feel strong about something, I think you should come into the meeting and be present, not on the telephone or on a Zoom call, because with technology, there's a lot of flaws too. And we were getting a lot of people doing things on technology that really weren't appropriate. And it's going to get worse, not better, that part, the appropriate part. And I would rather, if you would tweak it, I might be more open to it.
So I'm not quite sure, honestly, Leonora, how you would tweak it any further.
What I'm asking for
because-
is have a platform where people could view what's going on at our meeting. But
But that's
I know
what we have now.
But she's asking for Zoom, and we don't have Zoom. We have, whatever, the YouTube. YouTube.
Session late night.
Okay. YouTube, but maybe some people don't know how to use YouTube. I don't know.
No, there's no ability on YouTube to be able to interact with the board. That is my point. So that's why with Zoom, you're able to do that, because there are many reasons, Lenora, honestly, listen, you and I may be different than somebody, right? If we feel passionately enough, we're going to try to make time to actually get in person to say it. There are many reasons why people cannot. And I'm not going to judge them for it. It's not my place. But if they feel passionately about it, we have now taken their ability away from them to be able to weigh in.
Okay.
We'll say I do
understand.
love this passion in the room tonight and everybody's showing up in person.
I'm going to say this. And I'm going to say this, Frank, you and I can go back and forth about this the entire night, right? But I've had parents who reached out to me saying that they were not able to come tonight, but they were concerned about what was going to be discussed or what direction the district was going to be going. They have now not had the opportunity to be able to weigh in like the rest of the public. That's all I'm asking. So I'm not making the motion that it's for the board. I'm making it to allow our community to engage with us and for us to engage with them.
All right, let's take a consensus, okay? Let's take the consensus. Who is in favor of bringing back Zoom? And if we have the consensus, it goes on the agenda next week. If we don't,
I say no.
start with Barry. Jackie.
No.
Deb.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Tom?
It is shameful that we would not offer an opportunity to encourage participation.
Yes or no?
Board of Education. There is no one purpose.
All right, yes or no?
I'm speaking.
So
There is
am I.
no laudable purpose whatsoever in cutting off someone's right to participate in the Board of Education on a virtual platform. Explain it to me.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
What's the purpose?
Yes or no?
Mr. Jaimo, I think the presiding officers ended the debate on that, and just asking for your opinion on the question.
What is your consensus? Yes or no?
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Don?
Yes, yes.
Frank?
No.
And I'm a no. I think I think we've done this for years and I know times have changed, but when people really have a passion, they show up. This room is full. Email, we're all available by email. I truly think, and tell you the truth, my personal opinion is when we did Zoom, there was a lot of people calling in that weren't from our town. There were fights being picked back and forth between who's on Zoom and who's in person. It just pits everybody against each other. Come and make your comments.
It's easy to talk.
We're always
Zoom.
available. Wait, I can't hear you, Don.
You never know when our meetings are gonna end, right? Someone's home with their kid in our meeting. You know, if there's an issue that gets on the table, there's people that have, there's also, there's other folks that might not have a big of issue. My concern is when I'm hearing from people, it's hard to get down, right?
Yep.
It's 11 o'clock at night, I get weird, kind of signed up for that. I just think it's easier. I just like to get as much input from public as possible. That's my only point. I see what you're saying, but the times do change and Zoom gets a little bit, you know, hairy sometimes, but we are there at 11:30 at night. It's hard to expect people to sit here for X amount of hours. You know, you just want to make a point. I've got something, it's hard. You know? So that's one reason why I like it. Because I do like, I know what you're saying. I hear you. That's a small part. We've heard a lot of things, a lot of people's opinions that we normally wouldn't have heard. You know, we had up to 500 people on Zoom at one time. Then you had the YouTube, so you probably had like some time. That's.
We probably have a lot on there tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We weren't able to say a word.
Thank you, John.
And John, to you.
No, you can't.
No, they can't.
Everyone,
It
everyone.
was decided by this board.
Everyone can email. My email is very active all day long. So everybody is welcome to email. Yeah.
That may be true.
Madam Chair, I think
Actually,
the debate on this issue is over. The consensus.
No, that's-
I recommend you move on to the
Yep.
next item.
Anybody else have old business? New business? I do have something. We had a board retreat and I thank the 5 members that showed up. And I also thank the 5 members who filled out the board self-evaluation. I'm going to read to you what our goals are. We need to make action plans by September so we can read them into the meeting. Goal number 1 was to develop a plan to monitor strategic plan for the Middletown Township Public School District. Some of those recommendations were on agendas. You could put things, but that's really up for us to come up with a plan. Continue to work with the township to enhance shared services for shared projects. Goal 3, develop and implement a plan for improved communication amongst and between board members. Develop and implement a schedule for ongoing professional development training for board members. Support the district school reopening plan to ensure our students have the best educational experience. So those are the goals that New Jersey School Board sent me. If anybody would like to write action plans for any of those, please contact me. We need to have them done by the September voting meeting. And that's all I have. Any other new business? Okay, at this time, we're going to open up to public comment. And I please ask everybody to just be respectful of each other's opinions. Not everybody has the same opinions on everything, and we need to respect everyone.
We have to get a mic over there.
Okay,
Oh,
get a mic. So if anybody would like to make a comment, you could please come up to the mic, state your name and address. We will be giving you 3 minutes each.
Joan, this is the 30-minute public comment section.
As much time as needed.
Well, we're going to go on to 30 minutes. If we need to extend it, I'll make the motion.
I'm going into 8th grade and I attend Bayshore Middle School. For some people, masks are a feeling of being protected, which I get and respect. For me, it's a feeling of anxiety. Suddenly covering my face and causes irritations, makes me have headaches, and not being able to catch my breath during parts of the day. During the period of wearing masks, I felt that my teachers were more worried about my mask than my education. During the winter, it was too cold to go outside, so we had to stay inside for indoor gym. It was very hot and caused me to have a migraine, and I felt lightheaded. So I sat down and pulled my mask down and tried to catch my breath, but I got yelled at 2 seconds later. The masks we have that most people use clearly say not for medical use. So I ask you, school board, please fight to give us a choice. As an American citizen, we have the freedom to make choices. They may not always be viewed as the right one, but they are still ours to make.
Thank you.
My name is Melissa Bevilacqua. I live on Majestic Avenue in Croft. Oh, is there? Oh. Hi. My name is Melissa Bevilacqua. I live on Majestic Avenue in Croft. I have been a Middletown resident for a little over a year. I'm a practicing attorney and mother of 2 small children who are over there. Tomorrow is actually my son's 3rd birthday going to school, preschool this year. My daughter's entering kindergarten, and I'm here advocating for their right to breathe fresh air in a classroom. Statement so sad, so absurd, and so perverse. Restricting the airflow of the most healthy, young, and emotionally vulnerable among us for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, obviously not including extracurriculars if they're on school premises, constitutes nothing short of child abuse. Bodily function, the ability to breathe air, is the very definition of something that is not in the best interest of a child's health. You as a board are tasked with making decisions that are in the best interest of our children. I can't imagine any one of you up here being able to explain how masking a child for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, is in their best interest. Some of you have been strong advocates for us, for all the parents in here who feel this way, and there are more of us. To those of you who have been on our side, I thank you. To the others, I say, you have your seat because we allow you to have that seat. If you are not serving the best interests of our children, I have to ask you, whose interests are you serving? We're against us, and we will see to it that you no longer have a seat at this table.
Amen.
I have come here to talk about a proposal that I had regarding the exemption in the executive order. And I am so happy to hear that you have adopted a resolution for a mask policy that acknowledges that. So rather than calling for an outright rejection of the order, which obviously we would all be in favor of, I believe your proposed resolution reaches a compromise that will allow parents to regain their right to make the decisions that are well within our rights to make. The executive order provides for an exemption where wearing a mask would inhibit an individual's health, such as when the individual is exposed to extreme.
I have to ask you to start wrapping it up. Your time is up. Sorry.
Sure. The order is silent as to whether or not any medical licensed professional is able to make such a determination or needs to. And given the fact that the order is silent, it leaves open the
reasonable interpretation of a layperson, which we all are. We as parents are the best advocates for our children. And the fact that this exemption exists, there are no mitigating factors that prevent us from making a determination in the best interest of our children. If a parent provides an exemption to you under this provision, we expect the board to accept that without question. I'm looking at this resolution.
Excuse me.
Right, abused by parents, and to that I say the executive order mandating masks constitutes abuse by those in power.
No,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I give you a lot of credit. You watch Congress and they can do that, but that's not allowed here, unfortunately.
Good try, though.
I'm Kelly Iadone, I've lived in Middletown for 40 years. There was something that I noticed tonight that needs to be pointed out. You guys aren't supposed to be looking at the best interests of the children. That's already been said. Not going to talk about, what the masks do to the kids. We all know that. Our children are in school to learn. Mr. Giammo, there's maybe 2 feet away from you, Mr. Tomlin, a foot away from Mr. Little. Multiple times, you leaned over, pulled down your mask to sit to them.
Please.
But yet our children are supposed to sit in the classroom. What about those kids in the classroom behind plexiglass? And then they're going to be tested on things that they're supposed to hopefully hear from their teachers. You're supposed to be educating them. This is inhibiting it.
Good evening, board. My name is Michael Bass. I'm a Middletown resident. I've lived for about 35 years. I emailed every one of you individually, separately. I thank you all for the ones who responded. I just wanted to say that, I went to Nusswam, Thompson, South. My children go to these schools. And, I don't recognize this town anymore. I really don't. Last time I checked, this is America. We're all free. And we all want to do what's right for our children. We want to make sure they're safe. At this point, I think it's really time that, the board has to understand that parents are going to be at the point now where, and it's not a disrespectful statement to any of you. We're not going to listen and we're not going to abide by this anymore. Watch what I do and they mimic it, just like they do in school. My daughter asked me, Dad, I don't want to wear this mask anymore. Why? And again, anyone's beliefs, vaccines, not masks, it's fine, but the choice is ours. And I'm not going to let a board or anyone tell me how to raise my child. And if I have to figure out, or I have to make a process, or I have to tell everyone here to rebel against this, I will. But I just want the board to know that more of us are coming like this, and we're not going to follow these rules anymore. It's been 517 days to slow the spread. I agree with 15. I've had enough. So again, I thank you all for working for us, but again, you work for us and our children. So just try to remember that. Remember that's in the best interest of us. Thank you.
Ariana. I'm going into the 8th grade at Bayshore Middle School. We're not going to wear masks in school. We don't want to, and it's against our rights. I almost passed out twice in school because of the mask, and my mom had to come get me. Masks are not healthy. If you follow Murphy, you're just playing into his game.
Emery Mosquitos from Shoreline Terrace. I spoke many times. I want to say thank you very much for this resolution that you've come up with. I feel that it's extremely fair and something that hopefully gets voted on and passed, and something that I think the majority of us will be able to work with. My question is regarding the resolution does this apply to teachers? Are teachers going to be afforded the same, I'm just questioning, will they be afforded the same ability as our students are? They are the ones that are teaching our students. Again, hearing behind masks, I know for my children has been very difficult. So just curious if this policy or this resolution is going to apply to the teachers of Middletown also. Are the students still going to be with Plexi in September? I don't know if you can answer that yet or not. I'm curious. Again, I know Mrs. Walker was very kind to answer my questions at the last meeting, and they did not have Plexi in the summer. So I'm hoping that they don't have Plexi in the fall. And the students who do get mask accommodations, will they be discriminated in any way in the classroom or in any sort of activity? Will they be excluded from anything, or is it just they will be exempt and no discrimination will happen? So those are just my questions. And I also thank you for putting in the resolution about talking about vaccination. I was the one that asked that question at the last board meeting, and that was in the New Jersey Board of Ed reopening plan. That's where I took that question from, because it was in the New Jersey Board of Education reopening plan that teachers would be allowed to talk to students about vaccinations. So that is why I asked the question last month, if our teachers would be allowed to. So I appreciate that that is in the resolution, that our teachers will not be speaking to our students about the COVID-19 vaccination.
Hello. Hi, my name is Grace Mendez, and I'm an incoming eighth grader at Thorne Middle School. I've always had a problem with these masks ever since it became a big thing. I have realized that learning in schools has been very difficult. Either my glasses are fogging up or my mask is falling off. A lot of my teachers are more worried about my mask being held properly or it being over my nose. When I was in 7th grade last year, I was coming back from gym. Yes, gym. We were forced to run around in our masks and sprint. If my teacher told me that if I was not to put my mask up, I would be sent to the office. I put my mask up and I sat there for the rest of the class. A few minutes before class ended, she yelled at me again and sent me to the office. Meanwhile, I was in the back of class behind a plastic screen by myself. What I'm trying to say here is that COVID is not the only challenge that we face at school. Thank you.
Excuse me, could you just let this young lady, she's been trying to get up, and she has crutches, so just give her a chance. Sorry, you can go next.
No, he has the crutches.
Oh, he has the crutches.
Hi, my name is Olivia Fitzog, and I'm going to 7th grade at Thorne. I hate masks. They give me panic attacks and make me feel like I can't breathe. But I would wear one the whole day in school if it means I can be there in person and not have to do virtual learning. If there's one thing I hate more than masks, it's virtual learning. Schools in Florida have gone back recently. Their governor said no schools can mandate masks. As of last week, there are 14,000 students and staff in quarantine. Over 5,000 those are positive for COVID. If we wear our masks, it allows us to be in school, to play sports and join clubs in person. If we don't wear our masks, there's a good chance of we will end up being virtual. You might think students and parents should have a choice to wear them. In middle school, there's a lot of peer pressure. If everyone in my class is not wearing a mask, I will feel obligated to not wear one either. At the end of last year, we were allowed to be without masks inside. That was because the transmission rate was so low in our area. Right now, 17 counties in New Jersey have the highest rate of transmission, and one of them is ours. The CDC recommends masks inside even if you are vaccinated. At my sister's welcome visit 2 weeks ago, our pediatrician also supported all children wearing masks in school. Please follow the governor's mandate and enforce masks in our school buildings. Your job is to help kids with their education. If our school year is interrupted by virtual learning quarantine, you are learning as well.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Bulwer and I'm a student to be 8th grader at Thorne Middle School. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the students. We think it's unnecessary and ridiculous that you're trying to mask us again when it should obviously be a choice. We've been put through so many emotions, from optimism to disappointment, letdown, and can you even say drained? Kids K through 12 have suffered mentally and educationally because of the choices made. Mentally, kids and teens have suffered by getting their hopes up and getting let down time and time again. When all this started, we were just told 2 weeks, and that was a complete lie. This year, we miss seeing the smiles on our friends' faces as we walked the halls and our teachers when they were proud of us most. At one point in the year, I met a new friend, and for the first time a few weeks ago, I saw her without a mask. I said hi, and she completely couldn't recognize who I was and had to ask if I was who she thought I was, which is disappointing. From this example, you can see that we can't even tell who's who at this point, and it's a complete guessing game that you keep making us play. Will we go back or not? Is that them, mask or no mask? I'm not sure how you expect little kids to be able to adapt to this when 8th graders can't even recognize who people are anymore. I'm disappointed and let down by the people who make the decisions in this district solely based off the fact that you're making us miserable, and you obviously can't see that. We are affected every single day by the decisions made because we don't know when we will be back to school, and we feel that you have deserted us of our education and school experience. We have lots of deprivation of education and social interactions that half of us are going to struggle throughout the next years at school, all because you can't make up your minds. For our mental health and physical health, please give us a choice and give us the fresh breath of air when walking into the school building this fall. Many people that wear masks still tend to get COVID, so I honestly don't see what the point is. You guys should not have the authority over if I wear a mask or not, and that should be my parents' choice. We aren't going to stand for that anymore, as we are the children that are being put through this. We're counting on you to do what's best for us. Thank you.
Push it towards green.
Hi, my name is Sheridan, and last year I was virtual for the whole entire year because I couldn't wear a mask. Even a short trip to the grocery store or whatever, I give me headaches and I just couldn't do it. So last year I couldn't socialize or do anything with my friends, which is needed for a girl or boy or anyone my age. I just couldn't wear a mask, and the fact that you're putting us through this is obviously not right for anyone. So I think that the school district should not be doing this. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, my name is Alexander Goins. I'm going to 8th grade at Thorne Middle School. I spoke last year, and sadly, I have to speak again about our freedoms being taken away, ripped away from us. Let me explain a few things to you. This whole summer, we went maskless. Nobody had a mask on. Nobody worried about any of this. But now Governor Murphy wants to take control of us again. He wants to take the kids' control. That's how sad this is. This is all a game. We all know it is. It's all about control. This board always talks about mental health, but when I put a mask on, I feel stressed. I feel like I can't even think. I missed a lot of classes this year because I get headaches. I passed out almost a couple of times this year. So why I'm missing my whole math lesson, it's all because I had a mask on. And it's sad looking at some of you that want to keep us masked. It's sad because you're taking away our rights and our choice. I was written up because I had to run a mile in gym with a mask on inside. And I already have asthma. And then I went to my next class and had my mask underneath my nose because I couldn't breathe. And my teacher told me that I had to put the mask over my nose. I was 6 feet at a big table away from everybody with the shield around me. And then she's yelling at me because I can't breathe. She froze my Chromebook. I couldn't even do my class. I couldn't do any of my work for the rest of the class. So I had to do the rest of it for homework and I got written up, all because I couldn't breathe. This should be a choice. I'm not saying everybody has to not wear a mask. It should be your choice. I don't know what some of you are getting out of this, money or whatever, that want to mask us. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely something. Let me make one thing clear. God is protecting my body, not a mask that the government wants to force. I'm not putting a muzzle on me. Let me tell you that. I'm not a sheep, I'm a lion, and I'm standing strong.
Hello, my name is Lisa Cordova, Seabreeze Avenue. My husband and I have 2 children in the district. I won't take up too much time telling you here about both of my children's disgusting experience wearing a mask at school. I've sent you all an email dated June 15th, in case you're not sure, where to look. I'm not sure if any of you had a chance to read it. It has all of the details and will help you understand my most recent email dated August 6th. Where I reiterate that regardless of any change in the CDC guidance, suggestions from the AAP or proposals from the Department of Education or Health, my husband and I do not consent to mandatory masking as a condition for our children to receive an in-person education this fall. We consider a mandatory mask requirement for our children to be an impermissible medical intervention. I would like to thank you, Deborah, Leonora, and board member, President Linuis, for replying to the email, that specific email. Clearly, I'm here to advocate for my children and for parents' choice to unmask. Mrs. Walker stated in an email to the district on June 21st that we, most significantly, have trusted you with our most precious asset, our children. And I would like to remind you of that. My children are my property. And no, you may not make their health decisions for me. I'm their mother. I stand for a parent's choice. I stand for my healthy, deeply loved, unmasked children. What do you stand for? Thank you.
Hi, is this on?
Hold it till it's ready.
When you're done, just leave it on green, okay? Yeah, no, it's okay.
My name's Michelle Mandel. I've been a Middletown resident for 38 years. My daughter went here and now my grandchildren will be going as well. My concern is, number one, I'm a physical therapist and for 30 years actually. But at any rate, I know more than anyone of oxygen that's required for physical activity, for mental thinking, the capacity to function during the day. We use pulse oximeters for a reason. We use it because we test the oxygen in the blood during activity, during minor activity, major activity. When it drops, we make an adjustment. Completely impedes the breathing. The young girl who spoke about she couldn't breathe, this is a real issue. This is a major issue in our country. And number one, I thought this was completely debunked
I mean, many doctors have come forward and said, the analogy of using a mask is like stopping a mosquito in a chain link fence. We know it doesn't work. The virus is too small, it goes through things. You cannot use a mask and expect it to stop a virus, number one. Number two is Ron Paul made it very clear in Congress when he approached Fauci, Dr. Fauci, and clearly debunked it right in front of him with hypocrisy with wearing it, not wearing it, 2, 3. How are you all convinced that this makes sense?
It's virtue signaling.
You're all wearing it. Exactly. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. It's about control. Another girl had mentioned. That's what it's about. Why are we letting the people in this country control us when we know different? I've done my field for 30 years, have seen the ramifications of oxygen deprivation. I have seen the ramifications, and I left a nursing home because of what was going on. There is so many things that I could be here for hours talking about what's wrong with this particular virus, what it's doing, why it's here. But wearing a mask, it does nothing. All it does is show that you're compliant. RFK just did a video out. He's phenomenal. People, I urge you to follow this man. He just spoke about this very thing and how it's all about control. The old Mill study where they made people electrocute people without knowing what it was going to do because a man in white that pretended to be a doctor told them to do it. 67% of the people harmed others, not wanting to, being upset, but 67% complied because they were told what to do by the authority. So I could go on, but I think I made my point. Masks are useless. We're almost 80-minute limit, so I need to make a motion. Can we extend it at least another 15 minutes?
So moved.
I second the motion.
Anybody object? Okay, go ahead, honey.
Okay. Hi, my name is Delaney. I am 9 and I'm going into 4th grade. This year has been a very crazy year for me because we've been going on, mask off. And what is very crazy, when I was in gym class, like all people said, I had to wear a mask. And when it was winter, I had to stay inside. And it was really hard for me to run because there was this exercise where we had to like do push-ups and punches. And it was really hard because I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I had to stop and take a breath 15 times or more. And at the end of the year, when I got out of school, it was really nice because I didn't have to wear a mask anymore. And it felt like I was wearing a muzzle and I couldn't breathe anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's my daughter. I'm very proud of her to speak up like that. My name is James Whitman. I'm the Park Avenue developer of the Borough Corner. I just want to say thank you for Jeannie for organizing people outside the front today. I would say that we all appreciate everything you do with the board. We understand that you're doing this with good intentions, but there is a major problem going on right now, and it's pretty much summed up like this. There's a lack of common sense going on, and every one of us can understand.
Sir, I apologize for interrupting. You just have to address your comments to the board and the chair.
Okay, I don't mind. I won't be on it. You heard me outside anyway. So I have some issues here. The biggest issue here is basically what my daughter said. My son comes home with, red stuff around his lips. The kids, they come home with headaches. And I'm disappointed that any one of you here could say that for you, Mr. Guillermo, I'm just surprised that you go be so bold to say it's a law to wear a mask.
Could you direct your comments to me, please?
Yes, no problem. I'm surprised that anyone would say what the status is of something that's false. They're saying he said it's a law to wear a mask. It's not. We all understand that we're being taken for a ride here, and we don't want our kids to go through that. And they have a right. If I want my children not to wear a mask, it's that simple. Deborah, there's no analyzation of, is this, you know, I'm sorry, I'm just warning Deborah, that's beside the point. Okay, you know, you can't analyze a letter saying, is this good enough for a parent to have their children not wear a mask? You either wear it or you don't. It should not be a requirement. It's that simple. And anyone of the board that are contemplating not pushing this simple letter to Comrade Murphy to say, hey, listen, this is how we're feeling. This is what our residents, no one wants their kids masks. If you want to wear a mask, go ahead and wear a mask. But to make it a requirement, we're all not going to show up. My children and these children here will not wear masks in school. Either with this or against this. You're against this, at least in my personal opinion. So to be voted out, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks for taking my comment. My name is Chris Vitale. I'm a newer resident of the town, and I have 3 basic points and comments. One is if this is about following the science, like we should really do that. Like we should know that the science with COVID and young children is so clear that the effects of COVID and young children are almost nothing. And we've all heard the comments from the kids about what is the real implications of the mask. The mask does so much harm. Like the flu is so much more effective, so worse effect on children than COVID could ever have. And there's never even thought of this, but you know, we're just kind of like, we're not following science, we're just like sheep following like the leaders. So that's one. 2 is I work in corporate America. So in my office, which is pretty packed right now, there's nothing but, you know, 30, 40, 50-year-old men and women, and who are a lot more in the core COVID like range. The rules are in corporate America, it's like, oh, look, you're at your desk, no mask is necessary. Just put your mask on while you're walking around. So how is that for such a more affected crowd? That's the norm. But when we're putting it on our children, these are the laws, never take them off. That is not work. That is not what corporate America is asked to do. So I think that's a real like mismatch on you know where the focus should be. And then 3, very personal. So I moved to this town because my son was in crisis in Old Town. And he has special needs, and you know, we moved to this town basically blindfolded, hoping for the best. And for the first 3 years, it was like magic. Like this was God's gift. Excuse me. And now for the last 1.5 years, it's been a completely different story. And now I see my son every day, and it's not just about the meds, it's about the whole response to COVID. That he has no friends, he has no interactions. And you know what I fear? I don't fear COVID. I fear that he's going to become a different statistic at this point in his life. Because let me tell you, when you have a son with special needs, and for 2 years, he has no friends. That's what keeps me up at night, not COVID. I'll take COVID every single day, but not that.
Hi, my name is Ella Hilton. I'm going to 4th grade in Baby. When I wear a mask, it makes me nauseous and feel like I'm going to pass out or throw up. When I have plexiglass around me, it feels like I'm in a cage. During the morning meeting, I couldn't even tell what my teacher was saying because it sounded like she was mumbling. I can't take the mask anymore, so I'm not wearing a mask anymore.
Santa for Windermere Road. First, I want to thank the board for accommodating everyone that's participating here tonight in a larger room. It's been a great turnout. I think you should expect to reserve this room next week. Since you're voting on 2 key issues, you can expect double the head count, I think. Everybody. A couple points I want to make. First off, after Governor Murphy's announcement that masks would be required for New Jersey children, grades K to 8, regardless of vaccination status in our schools, I got super anxious. My 5th grader said she didn't want to return to school this year. She had to wear a mask. And why? Because she went to movie theaters, went to amusement parks, went to family gatherings, went on vacation, all without a mask. So I'm struggling to, number one, I spent the summer deprogramming her because she's so in fear. And we took weeks to get that mindset out that she's not sick and she's not going to make other people sick. So what I did is formed a petition here in Middletown to make masks optional because I believe in parental choice. We have 1,100 signatures. So I want to thank everyone here tonight that signed that, and I'll be sending that to you. I did not need a petition to make masks mandatory, which is interesting. Given that it sounds like we have a lot of that going on, maybe, I don't know. I would encourage those folks who want to get their voice heard to come to the board meetings. Submit you guys comments and questions and form their petition of their own. Couple points I just want to make. New Jersey remains in the top 5 states in vaccination rates among the eligible, with over 80% of adults receiving a first dose as of last night, according to the New York Times, which pulled its data from NJ.gov. Last night, there were 7 patients in Riverview with COVID, 7, none of which were children. So the fear, and I can appreciate that, young children and parents, they need to look at the Monmouth County statistics on children and hospitalizations in our state and get some real information. The 7-day average for death with COVID in Monmouth County is 1.2. Yesterday, there were 4 hospital reported deaths in the state. So I don't have data on children because the state hasn't made that available. And I think that transparency is sickening. If you're going to ask to mask our children, you should be transparent with the data so that the parents can make decisions for the health of their child. The question is the risk of COVID outweighing the risk of masking our children all day? And you heard a lot of testimony today from children and real life experiences that we should point out. So I came up here in May and I asked the board to write a letter in conjunction with other districts to Governor Murphy. And a majority of the board signed that letter, and I appreciate that. I'm asking. Did you wrap it up? Sure. Sorry. I'm going to ask for that again, and I'm going to ask that you apply leniency to the exemptions in the order, which I think you will. I want to bring up the point of parents making the best health decisions for their children versus the doctor. For 18 months, I filled out a health screening form every day. You guys took that as fact, but now it's no good anymore. My assessment of my child's health, their temperature, everything. No, no good. I don't know what's good for my child. I would petition parents here to fill out a health screening form at the end of your child's day. Document everything that's happening with them, so with masks. Implement next school year. Thank you.
So I'll talk a bit if I don't read off this page, so forgive me if I think I kind of. I felt very strongly about coming tonight in hopes of offering my support. Could you state your name, please? I'm sorry, my name is Abby Barber-Terrace. I have felt very strongly about coming tonight in hopes of offering my support to my fellow parents and family members of this community. We, as a family, happen to be a homeschooling family, but it wasn't always this case. Back in 2020, when we were told 2 weeks, which, not surprisingly, turned into the entire remainder of the school year and the next. Personally, our family wasn't willing to subject our children to the questionable policies and fear-based politics. My children were about to lose their right to be free and provided with a public education, so I chose to keep them free and educate them at home. When I withdrew my children, I said to our principal at the time, we went to Harmony Elementary, Should things change and safely go back to what we feel supports their physical, emotional, and educational needs without compromising their health, both physical and mental, I'm sure you'll see our faces again. Yet here we are, an entire year later, and I can honestly say that this district hasn't met a single one of those requirements. And the policies are worse now because we know better. We know that our children are not vectors of disease and should never be treated as such. I hope that you as the board will see that forcing our children to wear masks is setting them up for failure and putting a distrust in the hearts of our community towards the school district. We do not co-parent with the state or this district. We are the ones entrusted with these young lives, and we will not back down. Forced masking of our children is unacceptable. What will it take to get your attention? A mass withdrawal from public education? To the families in this room that have felt like you would have no idea what it's like to do that, I've been there. It feels scary at first, but not nearly as scary as hoping and trusting in a system that is failing to treat our children as free human beings with choice over their bodies.
Yes.
This issue isn't the mask, it's forcing the mask. If a family or child or teacher or other staff member feels safest with their mask on, I support that choice. But if you don't feel safe or comfortable in that, that is also your choice. Remember that coercion is not consent. I was pregnant and made the decision to lose my six-figure-a-year income to stay home with my children to make sure that first, they were taken care of virtually while we were still enrolled in school, and then stayed home with them after the fact to make sure that I could continue to provide them with what I felt Middletown School District could no longer do. But this isn't the case for everybody. There are families that can't give up their jobs or don't want to or shouldn't have to because of the mandates that have been put in place, which are not laws. My children are my priority, and it is my job to protect them and provide for them. And I've done what I felt is the very best thing. But we should never be asking our children to sacrifice for us. And not one parent on this board or in this room can look me in the eyes and say that they would willingly sacrifice their child's well-being and the possibility of bettering their own. But yet our state, and therefore those of you up here that would choose to forcibly mask our children, are making them the sacrificial lamb to policy and politics for exactly that reason.
I have to ask you to wrap it up, your time is up.
I got one sentence. That is, unless you get it right this time. And you stand up for our children by saying no to forcing them to be in a mask this year.
Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you, Gary Toll, Buchanan Boulevard, for the Plaza section. A few comments I've modified a bit because I'm encouraged by what I've heard tonight. It's clear that this board has been working hard since this executive order came out. I thank you for that. I think you all have an often thankless job, even in a normal year, and in a year like this, it's anything but. So you deserve to hear more than just the complaints of the people out there, but when you work hard and you're clearly, digging into the facts and what's best for our kids, you deserve our thanks. So thank you. Another thought I had listening to this night was, in some ways, a mandate that came down was probably, in some ways, a relief in theory, because it takes the burden off of you, it takes the controversy out of your hands. But to this board and this administration's credit, a number of times this past year and a half, you've shown that that what's easy isn't necessarily always what's right. And sometimes it's worth the hard work, it's worth the critical thinking, it's worth exercising your professional judgment that we've entrusted, that we've elected you to apply and that you're hired to apply, and we appreciate that. And it's clear from what I've seen tonight that you're prepared to continue doing that in the circumstance we find ourselves in now. So I had a few comments, requests I was going to make tonight about what comes next. But what I've heard tonight, I think we've heard some very sound proposals that I think take a lot of the facts into account, proposals that take a lot of, the burden you have of actually being public administrators of a school district. I get it, we get it. And I think it's clear that most of you are really taking that to heart and doing the best you can. And we're making progress. The only thing I would say is that if there's anybody on this board or anybody in the room, when as I hope is voted on Tuesday, the resolution to the governor goes out, I'm sure there are a lot of us here on this stage in this room who have contacts who are doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, critical folks. Get them to submit a follow-up supporting what this board puts out. Because if the governor actually has the audacity to push back and respond to what districts like ours might be sending to him, it's time to shift the burden back on him. If he doesn't want to acknowledge all the randomized control trials out there, he should be forced to. And you all are familiar with it. I've sent them to you. You all know them. Other folks here have sent them. But if you haven't yet, and there's Sal et al. From Emerging Infectious Diseases. There's Bungard et al. From Annals of Internal Medicine. There's Canini, the French study from 2010. Randomized clinical studies. That's what counts. That's what this should be based on. So let's put the burden back on him to respond to that. Folks here tonight have mentioned the local hospital statistics. That's what matters. That's what counts. And again, I don't want to rant for the sake of ranting. It sounds like most of you get that, and we're applying that. I'll wrap up. I know a lot of you, or some of you, are parents of kids in the district who are in our schools now. I'm not sure if you've broken the news to them yet since the executive order came out. My wife and I personally, we haven't been able to bring ourselves to do that yet. We have two little girls who are 8 and 5, and I can't bring myself to do that just yet. Again, I'm encouraged by what I heard tonight, but when I do talk to them about it, I wanted to be able to look them in the eye and tell them that their mom and I are not laying down on this, that we aren't just doing this out of ideology or emotion, but out of facts and science and truth. And I'm glad to say that after what I heard tonight, you all are seeing that too. I'm sure that you don't want to tell your children or the families you represent as administrators and board members that you haven't done that. But I think in what I've heard tonight, we're getting there, and you can look your kids in the eye tonight or tomorrow morning when they wake up and say that you have. I know I sure will. I'm glad to be able to. The alternative is letting these kids think that they are the disease-carrying rats out there. For some God knows what reason, because we've known for 1.5 years now. That's not true. It's never been true.
I'm sorry.
Happy to, thank you. It's not true. It's never been true. We now know better, and I thank you for really paying attention.
Hi, my name is Melissa Gizabel, and I live in place of Belford. I've been a resident of Middletown my entire life, and I've been through all Middletown schools. Tonight, I'd like to speak as an educator. I'm a 6th grade teacher in a neighboring district, and I've been teaching middle school for 18 years. Last year was by far the worst year I've ever experienced in my profession. None of your teachers are going to speak to you tonight for fear of the repercussions. I'll admit that I'm not going to speak to my own board because I would be fearful of my job and what could be done to me as a result. But I'm here to tell you what's actually going on in the front lines, the classrooms. Teaching is nearly impossible with a mask on. As you've experienced tonight, you cannot be heard. You cannot be understood. In addition to that frustration, there's the physical task of speaking for elongated periods. I teach 80-minute blocks. You know how hard it is to have a mask on your face and continue speaking for that long? I left school daily with headaches. But I'd like to speak more about what I have witnessed in the classroom. Students unable to hear their teachers, unable to understand each other, unable to concentrate or focus, and most importantly, unable to learn. Kids with learning issues such as ADHD or sensory processing disorders struggle enough on a daily basis. Can you imagine what they feel like with something on their face? The level of hypocrisy here is frightening. My students couldn't be inside without masks, but as soon as we took a mask break inside, they were in each other's faces. They would rather go outside in the freezing weather than stand to be inside masked one more second. This was something, by the way, that Middletown never offered, and I never understood why.
My district was mandated to take a 10-minute mask break each block. In Middletown, we had to stay masked the entire time. All day long, students pulled their masks down to speak, just as board members have done here tonight. How is that safe? Where is the consistency there? Mask up, mask down to talk, why bother? We can take the mask off to eat a snack, but not eat lunch. That was another thing that was done in my district. We couldn't eat lunch, but we were also, again, mandated to give the students snack in the classroom. Does COVID recognize what you're eating and discriminate based on the meal? Can't get COVID if you're eating a snack, but you can get it if you're eating lunch. My school pushed SEL, social emotional learning, as most are now doing, but the hypocrisy of what the school is doing is disgusting. I've personally seen kids struggle with anxiety attacks because they aren't comfortable with the masks on their face. I personally won't do that to my students, and I sincerely hope my child teacher feel the same way. I will reach out in September and make sure they know. I let my students take a breath, and the look on their faces when I told them, while 6 feet apart behind plexiglass, it's okay that their noses are out, that was priceless. Those were the most memorable and meaningful moments as an educator.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jerry Schottenberger. I'm the Assemblyman from Legislative District 13. And first off, I just want to say thank you for passing the resolution that you did. I think to have your voice heard is critical. I like to say that I'm your eyes and ears in Trenton, and here I am to report what I'm hearing. For the past several weeks, ever since the governor first started making noises about mandating masks, I've been inundated with emails and texts and calls from concerned parents. And from what I hear in my position, a lot of times for an issue, I'll get a few for, a few against, it's kind of a wash. It is completely lopsided. I have not gotten one email in favor of a mask mandate. And one of the things that's so frustrating to me is the word mandate. This is not whether masks work or not whether the vaccine works or not. It's just allowing us to make up our own minds. Give me the information. I'm a pretty smart guy, I think. My wife is way smarter than me. We can make up our own minds. So to mandate anything is ridiculous, especially when it comes to people's health. It's a very scary prospect. When you talk about vaccines and mandating that people inject something into their body, whether it works or not, it's not the issue. I'm co-sponsor of a bill, 85820, that would prohibit mask mandates on buses and schools and in schools. And I'm trying to work it for a full vote, but the legislature is not meeting, so it's sort of in limbo right now, but it is out there. I encourage everyone here to contact legislators from all over the state and demand that they become co-sponsors on it. So I want you to know that you have my support. I think you're doing the right thing with the resolution, making your voices heard, and I will continue to fight in Trenton for you and be your voice there. One other thing I wanted to say too, I've drafted a bill that would prohibit critical race theory being taught in New Jersey. It hasn't gotten a number. The minute it gets a number and it's introduced, I'm going to let you folks know, I'm going to let everybody know, and I'm going to scream it from the rooftops, because this is not history. If you really research it the way I did and my staff did, this is some warped, divisive, hateful ideology. It's not history. They will be the first ones to tell you they despise this country. So we should not be teaching our children racism. We should be teaching them true history, warts and all. And this bill will do that. I know it's getting late, and I don't want.
Your time is just about up.
Okay, so thank you for everything you do. You know, I'm here for all your concerns. Please stay in touch, okay? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Isaacs and I live on Roxbury Road in Belford. I don't know where I want to start because I've spoken at every meeting. I bought all of you nice 10 copies of Why Masks Are Useless. I even took a picture today at Costco about these lovely blue masks that everyone has on and how they don't protect you from a virus or disease. As far as my kids in school, my son has an IEP. He needs to see people's faces when he's being taught. Because if he can't see your face with auditory processing, it doesn't work. You know, everyone wants to trust the science. I'm sure if you Googled any of these articles, you're not going to find it because they're not on Google. I do have a recording too I want to play because I know that everyone believes in science. And I know everybody wants to listen to Dr. Flip Flop. So we should listen to everything.
When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask, and they keep touching their face. Right now, people should not know, but there's no reason to be looking around with the mask.
Get outside.
You should listen to everything he says, right? Trust the science. It's a bunch of BS. And not for nothing, you held a fundraiser for Frank Bloom with however many people. I have had it. I have gotten a majority of these people to come tonight and bring their kids and have their kids talk. So now that you're having a meeting next week, I'm going to make sure there's twice, if not however many people I can fill this room with, 786.
Thank you.
We have another mic.
Or you want to use mine? Go.
Hello, my name is Ryan Hilton, and I'm born in Roxbury. I'm going to finish what my mom said. I use journalistic contact, MMA, mouth bursts falling all over people, drool, and I don't like
This is what you're doing to our children. You are breaking them. The depression and the anxiety is ridiculous. Show me these facts that the shit works.
Hi, Jen Brown, I live in Middletown. And I would like to thank the board for the resolution, but I just need to take a quick minute and hope that you dig deep inside of your heart tonight and you listen to these children. These kids are being tortured. You are putting your fears, that is evident right here tonight, all of us, on them. That's selfish and disgusting. Do you hear me? I hope you do. It's disgusting what you're doing to these children. This is a political mess, and you're using them. I am so proud of them for standing up to you. It's going to change their lives. They're going to grow from this, but some of them aren't. Some of them are home, like that man that we heard from, Mr. Vitale, I believe his name was. His child is broken. You're breaking this child. You're breaking special needs children. You need to stand up to this and say enough. Enough is enough. I am a registered nurse. I was a COVID frontline ICU nurse. None of you can tell me what it looks like. None of you have a clue. You all live in an imaginary land where you believe you understand. You do not. It is not here now. COVID is not here. Will there be COVID cases for the rest of our life? If you are educating yourselves properly, you will understand that it's here to stay. It's a virus. It's a virus. You have an immune system. Nourish it instead of masking yourself up. You don't mask up children and kill their immune system. You make yourself feel like you nourish their immune system. I don't care. You nourish their immune system. You feed them properly. You feed their brains properly. You feed their emotions properly. That child will get sick from his stress. These are facts, not fiction. The masks you wear are not helping you. When I went to COVID rooms, I wore it at 95 because these stupid masks that you're wearing on your faces don't do a damn thing. It's been proven over and over again. You choose not to listen to the science. You choose to make up your own science. How am I getting louder? You choose to make up your own science. Maybe that's God. Thanks. But you do. I believe in my immune system. I believe in my children's immune system. I also believe and know that I push them out of my own body. You didn't push my child out of your body. You are not their mother, their father, their creator. And you're never going to govern my children from this board, ever. Thank you.
Keep going, guys.
I am.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I'm not going to interrupt anywhere until we're done.
All right, I won't be long. Kate Farley, 2 Ivy Hill Road. Jen is a tough act to follow, but she did hit on some points that I think are worth emphasizing. A lot that I was going to say tonight, I'm not going to say. Like many other people who've spoken, I'm, heartened by a lot of what I've heard tonight, and I think that the board is heading in the right direction within the bounds of what we're allowed to do in this state. But what has really been striking me tonight, listening to some of these comments, especially from the children, is I think it's a travesty that we have told these children, or that some of them think, that if they don't mask their faces, they might not be afforded the right that they deserve to attend school in person. The fact that we are now making these children live in a world where, because of the trauma they've endured over the last year and a half and having to deal with virtual learning and everything that entailed, they are so terrified that could happen again that they say, oh, fine, I'll just wear a mask. And many people, many of my friends, many parents feel that way about their kids. Fine, if I have to send them in a mask so that they can go to school, they just need to be in person. That is a horrible decision that we're being forced to make, and it's wrong. We should not have to sacrifice our children's health, their well-being, the things that we as parents know are the best things for them. We're the ones that see them when they come home from school with their headaches, the nosebleeds, dehydrated, sad, just sad and run down from having to battle with these masks all day to just be kids. And it's just one of the greatest disasters of this entire situation, which has largely been a disaster, that our kids have been made to feel like they are these vectors of disease, that my sweet 5-year-old kindergartner is gonna have to walk into school on September 8th and feel like, oh my God, if I don't keep my mask over my nose, like my teacher thinks that I'm gonna get her sick. That's horrible. She's healthy. I would never send my kids to school sick. No one in this room would. Like, we need to get away from this mentality. I am so concerned about what it's going to do to these children to spend another year like this. My son is going into second grade. He has never known a school year without COVID. He's been impacted every year, and it's weird and strange and sad. And we have to realize COVID is endemic. It's not going anywhere. We have to start treating it like we do every other illness, which is to say, if you're sick, stay home. And if you're healthy, come to school and learn and play with your friends and speak to your teachers and socialize and do all of the things that children are supposed to do and that school is supposed to teach them beyond just reading and writing and all of that.
Amen.
We need to stop putting this, as someone else said, our fears, people's fears, on these innocent children. Blessedly, this virus does not seem to impact the way that it impacts people in other age groups. Thank God. And we need to just let them be kids again and stop taking this out on them for yet another year. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else at the mic, like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Thank you, everyone, for